Welcome so much. We did start on time at 2 o'clock with Denise Levine, and we intentionally wanted to be really on time because she is a time management organizer and makeover specialist. And I'm so excited because I know so many people out there, so many women in our audience are professional women who really struggle with that, as I know I personally too. Yeah. So if you can relate to any of that, you're just going to love what we have to share today. If you are live, feel free to give us a thumbs up, say hello, give us a shout out, tell us where you're from, and if you really love what you're listening to today, feel free to tag your friends or share it on your timeline just so we could get this really, really helpful stuff out there. And right. Denise, just such a delight to be here
Same
with
here,
you
Karen.
today.
I love sharing the word about organizing because it just makes everybody feel better.
Yeah.
You know, not everybody needs to work with an organizer or a time management specialist, but everybody needs to be organized and on time. So hopefully you'll have one or two takeaways today and just feel great about what you're doing and maybe learn something new.
Yeah, and starting with that, tell us about the name of your business because I think it's really reflective of your heart, right?
Yes, I hope so.
Yeah.
So outside in organizer and makeovers really speaks to how sometimes our environment and our space that we're in makes us feel on the inside. You know, we're all doing a lot of inside work. We're reflecting, we're doing yoga, we're meditating, we're really human beings who are a work in progress. But sometimes you need a little bit external clearing to just help you feel more calm and focused inside. So I really think about, you know, when your desk is clear or your countertop at the end of the day, how does that make you feel, especially in the morning when you go out there and you have a clear space? And so it's not a substitute for self-care or good health practices, but I know if I'm in a down mood and I put on something colorful and go out and even get a compliment, it just kind of boosts me up a little bit. So it's outside in.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love that because we are such integrated beings, aren't we? So, well, I know you have not always done this as a business. So, but you've been doing it since 2010. So you have definitely earned your 10,000 hours in this, and I would consider you an expert. But I want to hear your story. How did you end up here?
Well, it's funny. As a child, I used to love organizing my mother's cupboards and closets. But my career was really in public education, and I loved it until about 2008 when I decided I wanted to retire and do something more creative. I didn't know what it would be. And of course, we make plans and then things fall apart, which is exactly what happened in 2008. I found myself going through a separation. My dad was on the East Coast and he was ill and dying, and I was selling my house and downsizing. And so, you know, everything was unraveling before I really had the idea. But then I worked with a great business coach, shout out to Allison Maslin, and I found out that there is this industry, the National Association of Professional Organizers and Productivity Consultants.
That's a mouthful.
I know. And it's a whole industry around the world of people like myself who have a passion for clearing clutter, whether it's in your schedule or in your space or even in your closet. I mean, how many women do we know who wear the same 5 or 6 things and have a closet full of beautiful clothes?
Yeah. So true.
Yeah. And so I found this place, and I laugh too because I think I have a little bit of OCD tendencies, and wow, I can really put them to work and pay attention to detail.
And use them as a blessing.
Exactly.
Which is so true.
So my journey was, you know, like a lot of other people, I found something that I was passionate about, that I could take courses, speak the language, join the organization, and offer services to women in particular, who just are ready to get rid of too much. It's time for them to take care of themselves, so they're there for others.
What a trend on thing too. I mean, with the whole minimalist movement, and I mean, especially in our age, I know I shared with you, we recently downsized, and just how cathartic that was.
Yeah,
and,
you feel lighter.
It's so true. So, well, I'm going to take a quick peek at my notes here because I want to make sure we don't miss anything. But tell us, when it comes to time management, we're going to kind of talk time management, productivity first, and then we'll go into organizing. But when it comes into time management, what do you find are the biggest challenges that people face?
Okay, and I'm really happy you want to start with time management, because when I began my business, the first couple of years I focused mostly on decluttering, organizing space, rearranging things so it was more livable, functional, and streamlined. But what I found was the underlying block was really not effective time management strategies in place.
Interesting.
That, you know, you think, well, when I have time, I'm going to clear out the garage.
So true.
You know, when I have time, I'm going to redo my closet. And a lot of the stumbling comes from not making the time to do it, where you really just want to unitask and not try and do it in your spare time in between. And so I like to work with people, whether it's paper or stuff or clothing, on, okay, how much time do you think it's going to take to do this project? So a garage is usually a massive project, just as an example. With time management, it's really more effective, and you feel better because you see success if you make it into little mini projects. And so it's not so overwhelming. So one of the things that happens is people just get overwhelmed and stuff, all right? It's too much, I don't have time, and they push it away and just pretend it's not there. With time management, you really need to think about some other strategies, like maybe you're not supposed to do everything yourself. Maybe you're supposed to pass it on and delegate a task. You know, even if you live alone like I do, there are other people or services who would make the task much more effective and
so
faster.
Much sense, yeah.
So 4 things I like to think about. One is postponing. All right, not everything is equally urgent. So if there are things that are priority, you want to make time for those, and then schedule time for the things that are less urgent. You can postpone them. You can pass it on. That's the second P. All right, you can delegate, you can outsource it, you can trade with a friend, you know, who hates cleaning out her closet but would love to do a nitty-gritty garage project. All right, you can also portion it, like I said, make little mini projects out of the bigger one. You just feel so good even if you only have 10 minutes to do something because it's done. So those are some of them, and let me look at my notes and cheat a little bit too. I think that what's really important is that you get the idea that you can do it, and you can also get help doing it, which is why we have a whole industry of people.
Well, and what I hear,
that.
a couple things, Denise, I hear you saying is, first of all, and this is something I, not recently, but quite a while ago thought about, is that time really is, and energy is a commodity, and to think of it as a commodity. And so when you look at projects, I think there is that overwhelm thing, and I don't have the energy or the time for that. But again, when you break things down into, either I'm going to have somebody else do this, or I'm going to delegate, or I'm just going to do this one little piece, it fosters success.
Yes.
And once you have success, then you have energy to continue on that path.
You gain this momentum. In fact, one of the things I find is that people don't want to stop. They want to keep going, and that kind of defeats the purpose because it may lead to burnout. So I think a little bit goes a long way. The 4th P that I kind of blocked on there for a moment was purge. So whether you're organizing stuff or organizing your time, you have to step back and look at, what am I spending time on that I really don't need to be doing at all? Because either I don't want to do it, someone can do it better, just purge it, just let it go. And that's hard for a lot of people who feel like they just have to be perfect and get it all done. But
I know you had shared a great example on kind of that, even that whole delegating piece, when just recently you, in kind of a different context, but you and your significant other were doing a dinner party, right?
Dinner party. I'm very possessive about entertaining.
I know that.
As my friends who I hope are out there know about me, because I love it. I love the detail. I love the planning. But I realized for me, the priority was really engaging with my friends and the social aspect of it. I don't want to be in the kitchen the whole time, even with an open kitchen layout. And so we decided to hire his housekeeper who could come and help with setup and clean up dishes as people were done eating. And it was just absolutely delightful to be able to spend all that time, but I still got to do the shopping and the cooking
and the planning part,
Exactly.
which is fun. And then
Exactly.
that is such a great example. And then again, that frees you up and gives you that inner peace. Instead of always being halfway mentally in the kitchen, you could really be fully present to
Right.
the things that really mattered. Yeah.
And I think
Very
one
wonderful.
key thing, if I can interject about time management, is if you're out there and you're thinking, oh, I want to be better at time management, I want to get more done and be more productive, it doesn't mean filling every moment of your day.
Yeah.
You have to learn the art of scheduling, and that's one of the things I love to work with people on, and give them permission to say, I'm not going to schedule things back to back.
Yeah.
I'm going to give myself time in between activities.
Yeah.
And I mean, here in Southern California, you don't know what traffic's going to be like. You
Right.
need to build in a
Right.
cushion of time.
Right.
That's a blessing to get someplace early
Yeah.
and just close your eyes and meditate for
Yeah.
a couple of minutes or read a
Right.
magazine. So it's not about filling every minute and doing more. It's
Right.
about quality and
Yeah.
making choices.
I love, I recently heard somebody that talked about the concept of white space in a book. Like imagine if you were reading and it was just words from edge to edge. It's very intentional that we have
Overwhelm again.
yeah, white space between paragraphs around the margins and all of that. And I think that's something so important in our life. So Denise, knowing a little bit about you, and I know I'm deviating a little bit from our notes, but I know you're big on teaching people systems, right? And I think that because systems is the key to being efficient, right?
Right. It's really, if you want to compare it to training for a marathon, for instance, you need a system for building your strength, building your endurance. You need a schedule for making sure every day includes something around that, even getting a massage because your muscles are sore.
Right.
So systems around organizing and time management really enable you to be clear about what your goal is.
That's a big word, clarity, right?
Clarity is
Yeah.
important. If you don't have a plan and know what your goal is, it's really like going on a trip and you don't know where you're going.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay? I
Which
love
is
to
okay
make these
sometimes,
comparisons
but-
because people can relate to that.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
it's great to be spontaneous, but if you have to be productive and you hold yourself to that goal, you need that plan. You need a time frame. And we all deviate. Expect the unexpected. I don't know who said that, but they
Yeah.
were so right because
It's so
things
true.
will come up. And you may not have a high energy day. You may say, you know what, this is on my schedule, but I just don't want to do it. You
Yeah.
know, having a system means that you can look at your structure and put it in another place if it's not going to get done at that moment on
Right.
that day. So I'm really about using your planner to schedule your to-dos. You know, I have clients who are wonderful, but when we start, they have Post-its and lists and notes and to-dos, and it's just visually overwhelming.
Oh, yeah,
And then
yeah.
they feel unsuccessful. So really, we look at, okay, how much time does this task take? Okay, where do I have time in my day or week to put that in? And then you don't have to sweat it because you know you've scheduled time to do it.
Right.
So it's very empowering.
Right.
And I know some creative types think, oh, that's just too rigid. I would never do that. But I feel like, you know, what you're doing now isn't working for you. So why not try something different?
Right.
The worst thing that could happen is you spend a few weeks practicing it because you're creating a new
Right.
habit, right? And then you decide you love it. It's actually freeing because it gave you more time for
Right.
creativity, or you hate it and we have to find another way because one size doesn't fit all.
Well, and going along with that, I think the principles are always true, that some kind of system is useful, but there's flexibility within that based on your particular, whether you're creative or less so, or, you know, whatever.
Right.
But the principle of being, having a system to help with organization is really the thing that is true there. So let's go ahead, Denise, and we talked a little bit about time management. We talked about some of the roadblocks for time management. Let's talk about organization. What are
Okay.
some of the big bugaboo roadblocks out there when it comes to organization?
Well, part of it is how attached we become to our
Yes,
stuff.
yeah.
All right? We love our stuff.
Yeah.
I love my stuff. I haven't met a person who doesn't.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean you have to have a lot of it. But I think this is where time and stuff really intersect, okay? And I say that because when you're talking about organizing your things, all right, you have to have a place to put it.
Yeah.
Why? Because you want to know where it is when you need it. You don't need to waste time. So they're very much the same thing. The same way I talked about, you have to have a place in your calendar to do an activity or a project. You have to have a place for everything. We talk about creating homes, a home for everything, so that when you're done using it, it goes back there and it belongs there. And I think sometimes people think it's supposed to be magazine, Photoshop ready. No. The place that you want to create a home for things is what's functional for you. Where would you think to look for it? Maybe your mail station is in the laundry room because it connects to the garage where you bring the mail in. Maybe it's in the kitchen because you want to sit down and have a glass of wine while you're opening the mail. So there's no wrong place. The wrong thing, if you will, is not using it as a home for your stuff. So I think people get a little bit caught up on details about what's right and wrong, but also they get out of the practice. So you have to give yourself a little block of time at the end of the day to put everything back where it belongs.
Right. Oh, that is perfect. So can you... let's talk a little bit about your services then. So tell me what that looks like when you go in and describe, first of all, let's describe your client. Who are people that really, really would benefit from you?
Okay. So my client is typically a woman. I'm not sure why that is. I've worked with men. They appreciate the service as well. But they'll generally call and say, I'm completely stressed out and overwhelmed. I need to have someone help me get rid of things for a variety of different reasons. Part of it may be a life transition. You mentioned at this point in our lives, many of us are downsizing. We're becoming empty nesters. You may have someone moving in, actually, like an elderly parent or an unemployed young adult child.
Right.
So they call usually because there's a pain point, and they're focused on the fact that they've tried, they've given it their best effort, and they can't do it on their own. Or they get organized, but they don't stay organized. Right. So those are the buzzwords. I'm overwhelmed, I'm stressed, I need what you do. And so I found that there are generally 3 different things that people need. They need to declutter. They just have too much stuff. They can't park the car in the garage. It may be because they moved and didn't get rid of enough things before they made the move. So that's the number one problem.
Or it may be from the last move, they never unpacked all the stuff, right? And just
I wasn't going to share that dirty little
more.
secret, but yeah, you know who we're talking to.
Yeah, exactly.
So we're laughing about it because when you step back from it, you realize we all do things like that. We have to take the time to really examine it. We get very attached to sentimental items. So I've worked with widows who have lost their husbands, and they're in the process of grieving and now ready with help to figure out, what do I keep of his, what do I let go of, what do I do with it, that type of thing.
That's special.
And it's so gratifying because everything has a story. And so allowing them to tell the story is actually a way to release some of the things. For me, and the industry in general, I want to say the job of a professional organizer is not to come and tell you what to throw out. If you work with someone like that, they're really not doing what we want to do, which is to empower you by asking the right questions. How often do you use it? Is it in good repair? So we'll ask a lot of guiding questions.
Oh, that's
in that.
really interesting.
Yeah, and so what I'll go in generally and do is see what the problem is visually, but then I look at the time management system to see if there's a better way for us to get to it. But the third service, besides organizing and time management, is wardrobe makeovers.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah,
Okay.
and it goes back to working in closets where there's still price tags on clothing, so clearly they haven't been worn. Or someone will say, well, I love that, but I don't know how to wear it. And so I offer a service called Shopping Your Closet, where we take everything out, we see what fits, what looks great, what needs to be altered, what needs to go. And then we create outfits from things you already have.
Oh my gosh, how fun is that?
So you're really literally shopping in your closet, and sometimes, the aha is, I would never have thought of that. When we put together an outfit, with accessories. And then if people want to build on it and go shopping and add to their wardrobe, I can make suggestions. So,
well, but then you've identified kind of the gaps in the wardrobe. And
exactly.
It sounds like so much of what you do is just be that objective eye, right?
Objective, and I think part of what's different about my approach, I hope, is this more mindful approach. You know, the women I tend to work with are high-powered, very capable, competent women in every area of their life. They've just gotten overwhelmed, and they are in a position to be able to hire professional help.
Yeah.
And you mentioned expertise. So when we want to get in shape, we hire personal trainers.
Right.
We hire hairstylists. We get our nails done. We don't, you know, on and on and on.
Yeah.
So this is really another, I like to think of myself as a personal trainer for organizing, you know, and just asking the right questions, helping someone make a decision because it's their things, and feel really good about what they keep.
Yeah.
And so non-judgment, being patient, all the principles of mindfulness that you talk about.
Right.
Looking, you know, there's something called beginner's mind, where you look at something as if it's the first time you're seeing it. And when they're wearing 6 new outfits that were in their closet that they never thought about putting together, it seems really superficial, but it's so elevating. You know, and I just love seeing women look at themselves in the mirror, and it's like, wow, I didn't think I could look like that. You know, it's very gratifying.
Well, Denise, just listening to you, and I hope our audience is sensing this too, is you are so special at what you do. And I know there's other organizers out there, but I can tell you just have this internal passion, and it's so much more. It's always so much more just about the organizing. It's really about being a service to other people.
And it's very relationship oriented. When you think about someone who, I mean, yes, we're professionals, but we're total strangers in the beginning. Inviting them into your
personal
home,
space,
your stuff, hearing your stories.
Your junk.
Your junk. But it's someone else's treasure, right?
Exactly.
And so it is a relationship business. You know, not everyone would want to work with me, and vice versa. It just depends upon what resonates with you. So a lot of the women I work with are kind of in my age category. I won't even give you the numbers, but
you're
seriously,
beautiful.
no, it's
we're beautiful, right?
Beauty matters, right?
Yes,
and so, but seriously, you know, if there's a young mom out there and she's just done with all the kids stuff, there are organizers who work really well with that population because they're in the same situation. So interview the person you may want to work with. It has to work for you, and you'll just feel so good about that kind of decision.
So piggybacking right on that, give us, besides hiring a professional, what are some real simple tips for people just to get started?
Okay.
Yeah.
And again, not everybody needs to work with a professional. So the first thing is stop buying organizing books. If you haven't, you've probably read enough of them to get the concept. The concept really is, first you purge whatever you don't need, whatever you don't use, whatever can't be repaired. It's okay. There are so many people in need in our country, either through natural disasters or, you know, poverty, unemployment. So you can donate things and just start making a plan for what to do when you let go of things. Most people feel really good about letting go of something if they know it's going to be used, right? So do the easy stuff first. Schedule some time, even 15 minutes sometimes. I think of paperwork. Paperwork is a big one with people. It's like, how long do I save this? And what do I do with it, you know? So just take one pile, schedule time, go through the pile and decide what you need and how to get rid of what you don't need. All right? Do the easy stuff first because it builds that success that you were talking about. Then put like things together. Sort things that you would use together and need to be near where you would use them. So I chuckled because I remember working with one family who had their laundry stuff in the garage, you know, detergent, fabric softener, but they had the Christmas things in the laundry room. And it goes back to being an objective eye. They just lived like that.
They didn't ever think of it.
They never thought about moving it. I'm not that much of a genius, right? And I said, well, what would you think about putting the laundry stuff in here and the things you only use seasonally out in the garage? And it was like,
great idea. Why didn't I? think of that.
But it's because we're too close to it.
Yeah, yeah.
And so things like that, just do the easy things
Yeah.
first. Go through with that beginner's mind and look at something as if you were just moving in. Another good thing to ask yourself is, if I moved, would I take this with me?
Yeah, that's a great one.
So if you can let it go, let it go. At this age and older, there are a lot of people still saving things for their kids. Their kids don't necessarily want them.
Yeah, it's really changed, huh?
It
the
has.
Younger generation.
They're more mobile.
Yeah,
They're not as
yeah.
tied to that kind of stuff. So I will often work with someone and will text photos of those items.
Great
and
idea.
ask the child, who's an adult, would you want this?
Yeah. Yeah.
I also suggest to people that you break up sets of things.
Great
Many
idea.
people don't
Yeah.
have parties of 12 on fine china
Yeah.
anymore.
Right.
But what if you got rid of 6 place settings
Yes,
and
great
started
idea.
using those on an everyday basis? So do the easy stuff first, work in little chunks of time, and then contain small items. A lot of times
Okay,
you'll open a
great.
drawer and there's just a lot of loose stuff all over, and you're wasting time looking for things and getting frustrated. So I love, as a former teacher too, because that was my first
Yeah.
career, engaging children in the process.
Oh,
Kids
great,
as young
yeah.
as preschool know how to organize things. They have to learn that in preschool and kindergarten.
You said it's an educational tool, right?
Exactly.
Sorting like with like and color with color.
Exactly,
And,
and learning to put their own things
Yes,
away.
yes. Everything
So
has a home.
Everything
right?
has a home.
Yeah.
So, and in the beginning, you can label things so you or your spouse knows where it is,
Right.
and then take the post-its off because you
Yeah.
know where it is.
Oh, I love that. Well, I know you have a couple things to offer our listeners. Would you like to share those?
I would. So I mentioned interviewing. Whether or not you want to work with me, I'd like to offer a complimentary phone consultation. And I've worked with people long distance on Skype and phone. So feel free to email me, Denise at outsideinorganizer.com,
And
or
we'll post
call
that.
me.
We'll post that down below too.
And my
Yeah.
phone number will post, and just we can set up a time and talk about, what are you working on? How could I be of help with some suggestions, and go from there. The other thing, going back to motivation and mindfulness, is I wrote a book years ago. It's a little book of affirmations or inspirational statements called Organizing Your Life from Outside In. It's not how to organize. It's a little book. You can keep it at your bedside or give it as a gift, and there's one statement on each page. Talk about white space, okay?
Yeah, that's awesome.
And there are 3 chapters, and when you need some motivation about wardrobe or time management or organizing, just open the book, read it, and feel good about what you're already doing. Because so many times people look at what they haven't done
Yeah.
instead of what they've already
So
accomplished.
true with everything, isn't it? Yeah.
And so the book was really inspired by my clients who needed another voice to come in and say, look at what you got done, and just elevate them again that way.
And how would they get a copy of that?
So they can go to my website, outsideinorganizer.com, and that'll lead them to Amazon, or they can go directly to Amazon.
Okay, and we'll post that. Maybe we'll even have the Amazon
Absolutely.
link or the website.
And
We'll
it's not in
definitely have
Kindle,
that
it's
one.
only a little paperback book, and it does make a great stuffer too.
Yeah.
Right,
great
time
idea.
management, it's almost Christmas, right?
Yeah, exactly. Get on top of
Get
it. would you?
organized.
And so this has just been so much fun.
You can tell I love talking about this.
Yeah.
I would welcome the phone calls and be able to make suggestions.
Yes, reach out to Denise. She is just a blessing, whether you decide to hire her or not. Again, so gracious of you to offer that complimentary phone call.
I'd love to.
Yeah.
Yeah. Time management, organizing, or wardrobe.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's wrap it up. Do you have a quote for us? And
Do
any
have
last
a
minute
quote.
thoughts?
So I mentioned that I'm not a genius, but there was a genius, Albert Einstein, who said something that I really resonate with, and that is, if you want to live a happy life, tie it to a goal, not to people or to things. Things and people don't necessarily make us happy.
Yeah.
The goal to spend more time with people we love makes us happy.
Yeah.
People come and go in our lives, so I just love that quote.
Yeah.
Have a goal. You can do it. I'll be your cheerleader.
Oh, Denise, this has just been wonderful. And I hope all of you heard that really the organizing is just to get you to that goal of a fuller, richer life, so that we have the energy and the time to do the things that are really precious and that really matter.
Yes, thank
So,
you for letting me share.
Absolute blessing. Thank you so much. And
Thank
we
you,
hope
everyone.
you enjoyed the